Hello there and welcome to Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue. We are all about using technology to solve everyday problems. And, of course, your host is none other than Mr. Iyer himself, an expert in all things SaaS and the digital world.
Welcome to our next episode on the series The Fractionals, and today we will be talking to a Fractional Chief Operations Officer.
Hello everybody, welcome to Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue. Yet another episode where we talk about technology, transformation, and travel. Today, to speak about, as a part of our Fractional Series, we've got a lady, Stephany Day. She's the dynamo behind KIP search and executive search firm dedicated to boosting private equity firms and portfolio companies with top-notch hiring and leadership development. But that's not all. Stephany wears multiple hats. She also a fractional COO for select companies and mastermind behind the Fractional Leap, a coaching program for executives eyeing a fractional career. Her latest curriculum, adhering to strict global standards, proudly offers one of the only certified fractional executive accreditations out there. And when she is not transforming business, Stephany's life is an adventure in itself. So she is a devoted wife, a mom to a lively toddler boy, a talented painter, a marathon runner, a kayaker, and even a homesteader. Oh my God, Stephany, what all things to you. So welcome to Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue. I'm really honored to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for the great intro. And yeah, you said it perfectly. My life is an adventure. I wear a lot of different hats in business and then also just in real life. So some would say I do stay busy.
Yeah, excellent. You do multiple hats. So let's start about Fractional Leap. What inspired to create that program?
Yeah, that's a great first question. I think it's honestly it kind of starts from the beginning. I'm sure you remember your first fractional client, and I ask this question to any fractional that I ever meet with that's experienced now. I'm like, tell me about your first client and what that was like. And a lot of fractionals, and I actually did the math. I started capturing some data, but 47% of the fractional executives that I've spoken to over the past 6 months, which are almost at a little bit over 100 actually, they kind of sort of fell into the fractional space because they were either laid off or they were in a in a space where they knew that they were about to get fired or they were fired. And so when you are in that type of situation, it's almost like when you're drowning and you're just kind of trying to get your head above water. And that first client is always someone that it's that helping hand, that kind of pulls you out of that water. But it's always really scary because you're in a situation where you just are catching your breath. You're trying to figure things out. And even for the people that made the fractional leap with, decidedly, and they said, I'm going to take this path. Even those people are like, man, my first client was kind of I don't know how else to say it, kind of a shit show. Excuse my language. But it was, it's always so crazy the first time that you do it. So the fractional leap really it started really with, I would have people reach out to me. I'm the kind of person that I'm always saying on LinkedIn and everywhere else, reach out to me. I'm always here to help. And I really, truly mean that. So people would reach out to me and they would say, hey, I'm struggling with this area. I'm not able to capture great KPIs in my business, my fractional practice. How do I do that? And I'm like, well, here's my scorecard. Here's how I keep track of my stuff. Like, do with it as you can. And it started becoming a little bit of a trend where people would get time on my calendar and I would, be able to provide them with some tools and templates and things like that. And so I said, why not put something together that, is a path or a foundation for someone to be able to make that fractional leap without feeling like they're drowning in the beginning. It's almost like, here's a binder full of everything that you need to take that first step. Now, what you do with it and how you land on the other side that's up to you. But I'm just here to tell you, like, the leap is hard, but it doesn't have to be as hard as it, has been for other people.
Right.
The fractional space is exploding.
Yeah.
There are several people that have been doing fractional since the early 2000s. That's something that was surprising to me. But there's a ton of people out there that have tons of experience. And so I've had the great opportunity of having conversations with a lot of these people and finding tools that they're using and asking, hey, can I use this at the Fractional Leap and, provide and give it out to people and, and do all that. So that's the inspiration behind the Fractional Leap, is just finding a way to help individuals make that decision in a way that, is confident and that is prepared, because I'm very much that kind of person where I don't want to go on a trip without an itinerary.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine there's so many other executives just like me that are like, hey, I'm not going on vacation unless we have an itinerary. And if that means I'm creating the itinerary, then so be it. And so that's kind of what happened with the Fractional Leap, is I'm that person that said, okay, nobody's creating the itinerary. I'm going to go ahead and create it, and let's put it out there into the world for people to know where they're going and and find their.
Excellent. Interesting conversation I had with a fractional. He wanted to get into fractional. He's been a senior executive CXO for close to so many years. He asked me a question which I was like, Mahesh, I want to be a fractional, and I asked him why. He says, I can't work now for 48 to 60 hours a week. I can't do that. I've reached a stage where I want to, work for 10 to 15 to 20 hours a week or less than that, and still do enough and still make money. So I said, yeah, that's where you're heading in the right direction. But I told him one red flag. Don't think that your life is going to be easy because you're being a fractional. Fractional doesn't mean you're a consultant or you're somebody who's not doing much, just come here, give strategies and go out. Here you have to get your hands dirty. You're an employee of an organization. You have to work a full square. So people are still confused, but people are still trying to understand and figure it out. And that comes to my second question to you is, when we spoke earlier, you mentioned about this certification, being a certified fractional executive, which is a program which you're creating, which is a great thing to have in the current scheme of things. And if somebody is certified, these days it's all about the blue tick, right? The verified tick. You need to be verified either in Instagram or in Twitter. So why not have a blue tick for a fractional? How did this, and what does the participant expect to gain from this program?
Yeah, that's great. That's such a good question. Yeah, I think, fractional means something different to everyone. That's something else that it was hard for me because, again, we are, working towards the certification idea. I always have to go a step further. I just like to one-up myself, right? So whenever I started the program, it started with, just tools and templates and how to, do it and everything. And then we put it in packages, whatever. And then I'm like, well, why wouldn't the person be certified now and be a certified fractional executive where they feel really confident? And also my clients would, on the KIP search side, on the side of hiring, why wouldn't my clients then feel really good about the person that they're hiring as well, knowing that they went through this program that is a standardized program where they can learn how to manage multiple clients at once, where they can learn the tools and the templates that are going to help them succeed as far as, the thing about being a fractional executive is you're going to be working with 1 million, that's probably an over exaggeration, but you're going to be working with dozens of programs. Every company has a different program that they're going to use for the things that, that they do. And you can't come in, I guess you could come in as a fractional and say, I want us to use these things that I'm on. It's not how it works. As a fractional, you are not a consultant. Emails are not going to go to your consulting email. That's something that a lot of people don't know. As a
Yeah.
fractional, you're probably going to get a company email.
Email.
And
Yes.
you're going to have to log in to 5 different emails every day
Yeah.
and check in on your teams.
Yeah.
So if you're working with 5 clients, let's say, or if you were to work with, 3 clients or 2 clients, like, the
Yeah.
guy that you mentioned earlier, if he wanted to work 10 to 15 hours and he wanted to just work with 2 clients, great. That's perfectly fine. But you said it yourself, life is not easy just because you're fractional now. You don't know when either one of those 2 clients is going to say, you know what, next quarter, I think we're going to move in a different direction. We'd like to hire a full-time executive. And
Yeah.
you're in the running for it. We'd love for you to apply.
Yeah.
But we are going in that direction. You don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And as a fractional, you have to kind of be on your toes on the financial aspect of how to manage your life in a
Correct.
way that, that you're making the money that you want to be making,
Correct.
but also that you are, and that you're working the hours that you want to work, but also that you are, capable and ready for whenever the ball drops and a client decides to pull out. So those are all things that, someone can expect to learn within the program, within the Fractional Leap. It's a lot about preparedness in starting your own fractional practice. And then the second half of it is the different strategies for actually managing multiple clients at once, managing your calendar, managing different types of personalities. All of those things are included there. And, it's a comprehensive program as far as managing your practice and managing a fractional load, but it doesn't go as deep into how to be an executive. You have to get that on your own. That's
on your own, yeah.
You need to come with ready to use. So if you're a fractional CTO or a fractional CMO, you're going to get the same type of tools and templates and everything that you can use. And again, this is just me saying, here's everything packaged and ready to go. Now you can take it and personalize it and make it your own. And how you land on the other side, that's on you.
I agree. You're a fractional COO, right? And
yes.
The question which keeps coming is, what is a fractional COO? How does it differ from a traditional COO? I know you covered a little bit here and there, but listeners might want to know, what does this fractional COO do different than a traditional COO?
Yeah, that is something that, a ton of people in the market are still struggling with understanding. And I recently wrote an article specifically about this. And the title of it was, "Are fractionals just glorified consultants?" Because I heard someone ask the question exactly like that. And I was like, that's crazy. Why would you say that? But I thought it was such a strong opinion to say, are they just glorified consultants? And it really got me thinking. And I think you can go check out my article, and there's, I think 10 different reasons that I give that our consultant is different than a fractional. But the big thing to me that people need to understand is, in the consulting space, which I've done consulting in the past, in the consulting space, you're coming into the organization and sitting down with a team and saying, what are your issues? And on the operational side, by the way, because I'm sure that it's different on the finance side or tech side. But on the operational side, you're coming in, maybe working on a project or on a specific issue, and you're giving them advice and telling them, okay, these are the things that you need to do to make sure that you get out of this rut or whatever issue that you're having. And then you walk away. You go home and and you don't worry about them ever again. And then on the fractional side, like I mentioned earlier, we have a company email, and we're having to check our email, and we're having to see, what's going on every day. Yeah. And we're having to follow along on that strategy, right? So you have the CEO or your leadership team or the other people that you're working with on the executive team. You guys are coming up with a plan for the quarter, and then you're there the entire quarter. You clock in the morning. And that's something else that it's different for everybody. Some people say, I work 1 day a week with this company, and that means on Tuesdays I work with this company. And for other fractionals like myself, I'm there every day. I'm only there for a couple hours with each one of my companies that I'm working with. So I think it's really important to just So just be aware of that. Be aware of like the consulting is very much on the outside of the box. And when you're a fractional, you're really in the inside.
Yeah, agree. I mean, whenever somebody comes and tells me, fractional is going to do this, fractional is going to do that, they are going to be on a retainer, and are their contracts short term, long term? These are some of the questions which they ask me. I tell them it depends on what you want to sign up with, because end of the day, like you mentioned, they have an email address, they have a CRM login for them exclusive, just like another employee. So and even they might have, some of them do have an HRMS login too, for them to pick out the the payrolls and understand where their monies are coming from. So all those things are there. So so everybody wants a success story. Stephany, tell me your success story, one of the success stories for one of your client. You don't need to name them. You can just tell them, how did you do it? What was the success that you felt, oh, I did a great job. I felt good about it.
Yeah, I think I think you're totally right. Like everyone wants to hear the success stories, and I have so many, like I've worked with so many clients now at this point in time, but I know that one of my very first clients that I worked with, where I felt really good, and I just posted about this on LinkedIn the other day as well, and the Catalyst Integrators had Jamie Munoz over at Catalyst Integrators. She was such an encouraging force to me, but one of a piece of advice that she gave me while I was working for her, or under the Catalyst Integrators umbrella, was whenever you get really cool emails from your clients saying like, you did so good, print that out and like keep it, or like put it in like a file, screenshot it and put it in a file so that you can go back and look at all your successes. And I was just thinking about that the other day, and I pulled out my little binder with all my client stories and all my client emails where they were like, wow, that's so amazing. Great job. And this particular client, they were struggling with getting to the next level because it was a husband and wife. And that happens often, right? You got two owners, you got two visionaries, or you got two CEOs, or a CEO and president. And they were struggling with, finding the right balance between work and being with their kids, being with their family, and both being involved in the business. And when they brought me in, their plan was to take someone else that was an executive at their firm, that was a director of operations, and they wanted that person to be coached up. They wanted that person to be coached up into the COO role. They said we'd probably give her a VP of operations title, and then give her. And so they were like, we basically need some help making the role. And that was so scary for me, because that was the thing about it was we were creating the role from scratch. They had never had a COO. So they were bringing in a fractional COO and saying, what does a COO do? And how can that help us spend more time with our family? And that was like all the guidance that I was getting, other than, and we think this person will be the right person for this role eventually. And so half of my job was making the role whole and helping them spend more time with their family. And the other half of my job with that company was coaching up this younger, director of ops that they wanted, to see elevated into the role. And it was just one of the coolest experiences, because at the end of the day, we were able to get them more time with their family. That was part of it. And I was like, check, we did it, more time with family. The role description was fully, it was fully figured out. We got it on paper, and we were able to figure out exactly what they needed from that role. And then third, I was able to help that younger leader, really develop. And that's why I just love what I do now, where, I do work with KIP Search as, COO, and I'm over a lot of the recruiting aspects and hiring aspects. But another thing that we bring into, different teams is the idea of sometimes the right person is within your own team. And we're here to help you check out your own team and see if there is that career development from within your own team. And with the fractional space, that happens more often now because I'm able to see it, just from that experience. I'm able to now come back and say, hey, you've never had a COO, you're hiring a fractional COO, you want me to come help you build out that role. And you think that there is someone in your team already that could elevate into that role one day. So let me help you coach them. Let's get that person ready.
Excellent. I had a question, but I thought I'll pause that question and I'll ask you something about KIP Search. You did mention about KIP Search. So tell me about KIP Search and what do you do? What does KIP Search and what's your role? Probably you could dwell deep on that. That will help the audience to know more about KIP Search.
Yeah, so I was working with them as a fractional COO, and in many ways I am still, fractional COO, but a big chunk of my time is spent with that team and working within that team. And it's because it goes hand in hand with the fractional leap. We encounter so many candidates that are dealing with a loss of a job, or they're dealing with, they want to exit from these, corporate jobs that they have, or they're at a stage where it's like, I don't want to retire, but I don't want to keep working full time. You mentioned that other guy. It's like, I'm at the stage where I want to do 10 to 15 hours. And so we encounter all these different types of people, and, and it just made sense for us to create something that was, going to help people decide whether they want to go down the traditional path or the fractional path. And that's all great and dandy. But on the other side of KIP Search, we're working with clients day to day to find the right people to create better teams, is the way that we say it. But that's really the end goal, is you're coming to us saying, hey, I have this team. These are the goals that I would like to hit. We work a ton with private equity and with portfolio companies. Tell us what value you're trying to get, because that's important in the type of people that you're going to hire. You want to increase your value? Absolutely. Great. Tell us how you're going to do that. And we're going to find you the who that's going to come in and plug in and actually get you to that value, actually help you with selling or with increasing your value or doing whatever, plans that you're trying to accomplish. But so I guess, KIP Search, we're an executive search firm. We help people with, creating better teams through better hiring, better recruiting. But yeah, we also come in, and if you say, hey, I just want to be able to hire the right people myself from now on, I don't want to hire a recruiter. We're like, great. We'll come in and plug in and help you create better systems so that you're doing a better job at hiring the right people. Because we see that, in small businesses and medium-sized businesses, you don't want to hire a recruiter at 33 or 30 or 25% of a base salary, particularly when you're hiring executives. I get it. Let me help you do better hiring. And we have, solutions that fit in with that type of business. And so it's just been so fulfilling and so much fun. And I tell you, the first time we met and spoke, I wouldn't shut up about KIP Search, and it's because it's so,
I can see the glow in your eye, when you talk about KIP Search. You're so excited. You know what you're doing. You're excited at what you're doing. So I mean, so all the listeners, anybody who wants to reach out to KIP Search can reach out to Stephany. She'll help you on that. So that's the one thing. So let's talk about how fractionals can get clients. Now, networking plays a very important role in fractionals, right? If you were a fractional, you want to give advice to fractionals who are getting into different aspects of fractional, how do they network, and how does networking help get them clients?
Yeah, man, that is my favorite question. Because I'm on the boat on both sides of this. I'm on the side where I get questions from my clients, and so I'm able to see what my clients are asking about as far as hiring a fractional and the things that they worry about. And I'll say this: There have been several clients that come to us and they say, we're thinking about hiring a fractional, but we're not sure if we need a full-time or a fractional. And we help them with deciding, which way they're going to go. And then whenever they're like, okay, so it seems like a fractional makes sense for us. Then we say, okay, how are you going to go about this? We can give you some steps that you can, take, or, we can go do the search for you. I mean, you have options here. Many times, something that is curious to me is many times they will tell us, I think there's someone in my network that would work. It's that easy for clients to say, oh, I think I know someone, and there's two different things too. There's the client that will say, I have a buddy that I play golf with that has a fractional CTO or fractional CFO. And let me talk to that guy first. Yeah. And then 9 out of 10 times, they're going to hire the same guy that their buddy hired. Yeah. So if you're doing a really good job with your clients, there's going to be that referral. And you can always, the big thing I told fractionals is ask your clients, ask them, just straightforward, just be like, hey, Mahesh, I know that we've been working together for 6 months. Do you think I'm doing a really good job? Yeah, I think you're doing a great job, Stephany. Great. Do you have any referrals, any friends of yours or colleagues or anyone that would be interesting for me to talk to that might, be a good client for me in the future, or that would be a good connection for me to have? Yeah. It's that easy. And then there's the second type of people that, I see Stephany on my LinkedIn feed all the time. She's constantly, giving out advice and giving out, tools and templates. Like, I like her. I think I'm going to go see what she's about before we start a fractional search. So making sure that you're present in, in the different corporate or different professional settings that you can be present in is really important. It's really important for people to know your name. And I know that that's hard for some people. I've spoken to certain fractionals that are like, I don't like marketing. I don't like getting on camera. I was one of those people. I don't like getting on camera. But I don't like getting on camera. I don't like posting. I don't like coming up with new material every day. This is boring to me. I don't want to deal with any of that. I'm a fractional COO. I'm not a fractional CMO, so I don't get it. I don't get marketing. Great. Then you need to start having conversations with people like me. Talk to any recruiters that that might end up having conversations with executives. So look up, retained executive search and go meet with those people, make contacts with those people. I will say for us at the KIP search team, we are asking fractionals to come talk to us right now, because that's the big thing that we're working on, is making sure that we have that vetted network of fractionals that we're able to refer to our clients. And we're trying to build out that space, because it's important that our clients have options, whenever they do decide I want to go fractional, that they don't just go hire the guy that works with their buddy that plays golf. Like, hey, well, I know that you know that guy, but why don't you check out these other 3 CTOs that I have in my network? So
I completely agree, because of course, golf is a great place for networking. For me also, that's a great place to network. Today, interestingly, I wrote an article about founders building a strong team. That was part of my newsletter. Now, I feel, I'll take your thoughts also on this, that when you're a startup, when you're new, you don't want to spend much. And we all know that none of the CXOs work for 8 hours a day full time, even if you hire them. They'll have enough time to do a lot of stuff to do. So if you hire a fractional as a part of your founding team, how does that make sense? Because you're not going to spend so much, but you're going to spend little, but you're going to get an excellent CXO who's going to build your team, build your foundation to start up. So you can be bootstrapped, don't spend much, and still can have a fractional to help you. This is what I thought.
Yeah, that's a great point. I always say that, hiring a fractional versus a full-time executive, first of all, it's not for every startup. I will say that. There are some startups that really need that full-time executive. Full-time, and that, hands down, whenever I see that, I am very straightforward with our clients, and my recruiters are really straightforward with our clients. And we say, a fractional is not going to work for you. you need someone here full time to help you achieve these goals, particularly when it's someone that's telling us like, I want to go from 15 million to 50 million by next year.
You need a full-time, absolutely.
Right. You need a full-time person.
You need a
like
full-time.
as great as your idea is and as revolutionary as a business model that you have, you still need a full-time person to come in and really get this, under control. So, so there's that. And then you have the, the companies, the startups that are saying, yeah, I want to go from 15 million to 20, and then kind of see where I'm going. And they don't necessarily have an idea of how their plan is going to work. I'm like, you need a fractional. You don't know what you're doing yet. You're kind of, that you have a good product, that you're making money, that maybe you're profiting a little bit, but you're not sure where to go from here. You probably need a fractional. You need someone to come in and put some structure around this and, get you a higher profit and help you with increasing your revenue with realistic goals and all that fun stuff. But yeah, to your point, it's cheaper than hiring a full-time exec, but you're getting, the way that I see it is you're getting like an 80% return. Like, and they pay for themselves. Fractional executives pay for themselves. This is what I tell our clients constantly. They're worried about spending, $10,000 a month on, a fractional COO that's going to come in and do whatever. I'm like, $10,000 in the grand scheme of things. Like, imagine if you had someone a full-time exec at $10,000 a month. It's not going to happen. And it's just, at least in the US, it's not going to happen. And you need to be able to understand that, that they pay for themselves, that like eventually you will be able to hire a full-time exec, because this person, it's almost like you have to spend a little money to make some money to be able to hire a full-time exec to go make more money. That's the way that I kind of like, that's the chain reaction that you're looking for, and finding that right fractional CFO or right fractional COO or CMO is going to help you get there. And if you're struggling with which one you need first, then also call us, because we have a quiz that'll help you decide which one you need to go with first.
Excellent. That's a great advice for the CEOs and the startups. Now, I want to go to the other side. And what advice would you give to someone considering a career as a fractional executive?
Yeah, so someone that is just starting out, or that's thinking about going into it, create a plan. It goes back to me needing my itinerary. I have a free, 15-step checklist on my website, thefractionalleap.pro. And you can go in there, get that. And that just gives you a guideline for where to start. There's a lot that you need to do before you jump into it. And you don't have to take care of all 15 things or all 20 things, but making sure that you have some sort of financial plan and financial security before jumping in, because the reality of it is you say, oh, I can have 3 clients at X amount, and that'll make me the same that I make on my full-time job. Great. Where are those 3 clients going to come from? How are you going to keep them? And how are you going to ensure that you have a pipeline so that whenever one of them drops, the next person is ready to go? So that's my advice, is just kind of be ready, prepare yourself, and don't just jump into it willy-nilly, unless you have to. And then if you have to, good luck to you.
Excellent. So I'm sure everybody's getting all these, tons and tons of information from you, Stephany. Before we end, I have a couple of questions more to you. One is, when you're a fractional, how do you ensure there is an effective communication and collaboration with your full-time executives and teams?
Oh man, that is such a good question. I had a team that I worked with where the owner and CEO was living in Puerto Rico, and his entire team was living overseas. We had a couple of people in Ukraine, had a couple of people in India, had a couple of people in the Philippines, and a couple of people in Taiwan. I mean, it was diverse team. And one of the biggest struggles with that team was communication. And, I'm sure everybody knows this, but use those apps that are going to be good for big diverse teams like that. So, obviously on your cell phone, you want to have all the apps that your teams are using. At the same time, you don't want to get bogged down throughout the day. So I keep notifications off, but I make it easily accessible for myself. So that's my advice in making sure that you're able to communicate quickly and effectively, and in a way that makes sense. I also, have that conversation with the CEO or president or the executive team that I'm working with is, how does communication work here? And let's set some ground rules. I don't like getting calls at 2 a.m. because I like to get some sleep. But here are my working hours. Here's when you're able to contact me. I might not be able to reply right away because I might be in another meeting. I may be able to get back to you within 24 hours. That's my usual. I actually usually say 12. I'll get back to you in 12 hours because it's, within the same day. But yeah, I just have that conversation with the person that's hiring you, with the team that's hiring, and make sure that there's ground rules, that they understand when they can reach you and when you can reach them and how to reach them as well. Because it's going to make a world of difference in the long run whenever you have 5 different teams or 4 different teams calling you at the same time, trying to get some time on your calendar.
Interesting. I didn't wanted to ask this question, but it just struck my mind. So when you have multiple customers, you have multiple clients, right? Let's say you have 3 or 4 clients working. Doesn't it get confusing because or let's say they are from different industry and you have to use your energies in different way for different clients. How do you balance that?
The best thing that ever happened to me was whenever they launched all the different colors in Microsoft and Google calendars, and they have like the colors, where you can categorize stuff.
Yes.
That was the best update. That happened within my lifetime of working as a fractional, whenever they started adding more colors. And that has been revolutionary for me. And I'm a visual person. I used to be embarrassed by the fact that I'm a visual learner, but that's just who I am. And so I would have a client that was yellow because they make me really happy and they're in an industry that I really like. And so I would put them in yellow, and then I would have blue that's like in tech. And then I would have, a pink one because that's my pink ranger, I associated the colors with the people. And so at a glance, I could look at my calendar and say, oh, I have half a day today working on this marketing company or marketing agency. And then I have 2 meetings in the morning that are tech, and then 1 meeting that's with my construction company that I'm working with. And so it made it really easy to see that. And the other piece within that is connect all your calendars. Oh my gosh, that changed my life. Whenever I realized I can connect all the calendars into one.
I can tell you that. You sound like my twin. I have seen, for me, like if it is tech, it is blue. If I'm working with a marketing company, it has to be bright orange. If you're working with a manufacturing company, you keep it more. So I relate to that because I have multiple clients, and like you said, the best part is now you can sync the calendar and you're able to figure it out. How and where you can structure your calls. And sometimes you have those stand-up calls, which happens for all the customers. And then you figure out, oh, yeah, I have a stand-up call. So correcting yourself from a different industry to different industry sometimes can get challenging. But that's, with today's technology, I think so everything is possible.
100%. And the other thing too is to make sure that you're setting aside a color for your company. As a fractional executive, you have your own company as well. And so, my color is blue or whatever. And I need to make sure that I have time each day to respond to emails and that, set aside time for social, set aside time for things like this, where you're connecting and networking. So whenever, I spoke to a guy recently that was like, 5 days a week, I can get this many clients. And he was doing the math and he's like $70,000 a month. Like, that sounds great. And I'm like, I could either let you figure it out yourself, or I can tell you that's not how it works. You're going to need some time for your family, some time to eat. You're going to need time to go, take a walk. You're going to need time for your business. And then what you get left over is maybe enough time for 36 hours out of the week that are actually for business, for working on other businesses. And the other thing too is taking on way too much responsibility from your fractional client.
Yeah.
You say, oh, I have 8 hours to spend on this client, and you have 8 hours of meetings on your calendar. Let me break it to you. That's not 8 hours. You're going to have to prep for each one of those meetings. You're going to have to follow up on things from those meetings, especially as an executive. You're going to need to keep track of all of the things that are going on your calendar. So when you have these conversations with potential clients, or you take on a new client, it's so important to make sure that they understand that 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, whatever it is that of time that you're selling them, doesn't mean 12 hours of meetings. It means I'm going to need time to work on your business or in your business by myself for a little while to make sure that I'm able to get all these things done for you, these goals. So, there's different types of fractionals out there, some that do hourly and some that do project-based. I'm more compelled to work with companies that are going to hire me for a project versus my time, because I don't know, some weeks I'm going to use more time with a client than I would the next week, but I will accomplish this goal. Right. So.
Excellent. I don't have any question. It's just that I wanted to ask you, how do you balance yourself, Stephany? You're like a Wonder Woman doing so many stuff, you being a fractional. I'm sure how do you balance your personal life with professional life? Because I know you've got a kid, and, you're a wife, and, balancing everything.
Yeah, man, I think calendars are the best thing that happened to me. Colorful calendars. I can't stop raving about them. I tell my husband, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist for me. And so, as an example, yesterday he was like, I can't remember what he's we need to send a check for the water bill. It's such a small thing, but he doesn't work from home. I'm at home. I'm able to write a check, put it in the mailbox, all that. So he's like, that's kind of on you. And I'm like, okay. And I immediately get on my phone and put it in my calendar. And he's like, are you serious? It's just a check. And I'm like, it has to be on the calendar.
Yeah.
If it's not on the calendar, it's hard for me to remember. And so even my weekends are slightly planned. I like to know in advance where I'm spending my time. If I'm, I'm an itinerary kind of person. So I love to get up at the same time, spend time with my son, make breakfast with him. And then, at this time I start work, and I always also add time for myself in the morning.
Yes.
20 minutes to journal, just wake up, drink some coffee, hang out for a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go hang out with my toddler. Okay, now I'm going to have 20 minutes to, to myself, to put makeup on, to feel good for myself for the day. And that's something that, as a mom and as a woman in general, like, it's hard for us. Like, you got to balance all that. And the best advice I can give people is put it on the calendar, put it as if it's an appointment with yourself, and make sure that you're giving yourself that space and that time. And put time on the calendar to pursue your hobbies.
Yes.
What's the point of all of this? What's the point of being in the fractional space? What's the point of anything if you don't have time to go paint, or go to a stand-up comedy show, or go run a marathon? Like, those are the things that I love to do. And I'm like, and I love having chickens, and, that means I got to clean the coop. So that's got to be on my calendar too. It's just making sure that you're making space for yourself in the grand scheme of things.
Excellent. I think so. I have never had so much fun in any of the podcasts. So you were amazing, Stephany. It was brilliant. So all the audience, anybody who are looking to become fractional, specifically if you're globally anywhere, you can reach out to Stephany. When I post the podcast, I will send the links of Stephany's LinkedIn profile so people can reach out to you. So it was a great fun, Stephany. Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate you taking time and talking to us. And to everyone, please follow, enjoy the podcast, and we'll have more about fractionals going on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's a wrap on this episode of Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue. Before we close out today's episode, a quick reminder to all our listeners. If you found value in today's insights and discussions, be sure to subscribe to Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other leading podcast platforms. By subscribing, you'll stay updated with the latest episodes and continue to delve deep into the ever-evolving world of digital dynamics with Mr. Iyer. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to having you join us for our next episode. Until then, keep the dialogue going and keep pushing the boundaries of digital innovation. Farewell, and stay curious.